She'd do anything for him and always had. That was her job, wasn't it? Face it, her job was her life. She was pathetic. It all sounds fine, Mr. McKay.
I think it's time you called me Ryan.
All right, Ryan. How strange, after all these years, to call him by his first name.
Then it's settled.
There's just one more thing. He waited. The sex thing still nagged at her. She was hesitant to broach the subject, but the mere thought of it caused nausea to rise up in her throat. She had to bring it up. Before we continue, we need to discuss the sex part.
What about the sex part?
How was she going to approach this? She'd never asked Ryan McKay for anything the entire time she'd worked for him, and now she was going to mess with his intentions for this agreement. Sex is something I don't take lightly. It means something to me, a sharing of feelings, of deep emotion. His eyes narrowed and turned an icy gray.
I don't have feelings, Faith, for you or anyone else. Don't mistake any physical desire I may show as emotion or caring. You'll only end up hurting yourself.
She'd already surmised that. Even though his nearness unnerved her, awakened yearnings she'd never had before, he was right about biology and sex. She could already picture them naked together, their bodies entwined in a ritual older than both of them. But not tonight. I know, but still, I'd like a little time. It may be purely physical and unemotional for you, Ryan, but sex will never be that way for me. I'm sorry, but I'm just not ready. Ryan looked at his watch, his face drawn into a hard line. Guilt punched her in the gut. She'd disappointed him. But what could she do?
What kind of time frame are you talking about? He asked.
How about forever? Okay, that wasn't realistic, but she'd take as much as he would give. She needed time to figure out how she could allow him to make love to her without leaving feelings behind when it was over. 3 months.
I had hoped to have you pregnant in 3 months.
She'd always been impressed by his confidence. I'm sorry, but I just can't do it right away. Everything else in the agreement looks fine, but I have to have 3 months.
I'll give you 2.
2 months. At least it would buy her some time to adjust. Fine, 2 months.
Do we have an agreement?
Not quite the proposal of marriage Faith had always dreamed of. But then again, her life hadn't turned out like she'd imagined either. Yes, I'll marry you.
Great. I'll get Stan up here right away with a new contract.
Cell phone against his ear. He'd already dismissed her. Not surprising. She knew what she was getting into when she agreed to this, so she shouldn't be disappointed at the lack of romance in his proposal. This was the way their marriage would be, and she'd made the bargain with her eyes wide open. After all, to Ryan it was nothing personal. But to Faith, it was much more. She had just agreed to sign over her life, and if she wasn't careful, her heart, to Ryan McKay.